Ms. Rhodes, roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Austin.
Here.
Mr. Blankenship.
Here.
Mr. Buchan.
Present.
Ms. Jones. Ms. McGinnis.
Here.
Mr. Rainierson.
Here.
Mr. Taylor.
Here.
Sir, we have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Brian Reese, prayer and pledge, please.
Ryan, invite you to join with me. Our Father, we come to you tonight grateful again for another day of life. We thank you for the privilege it is to gather together to do the business of our city. We pray that you just be with everything that takes place tonight, may you guide, direct, and give wisdom for decisions that need to be made. As we see swearing in of a new firefighter, as we recognize the great work of some of our police officers, may we as residents be reminded of how blessed we are, how grateful we should be that they serve to protect us here. And I pray for all of the other items on the agenda that you would just bring good conclusions to those that were good for Franklin. And we look forward to what you're going to do tonight and going forward for our great city. Give us a good time tonight, and we pray for good results. In your name we pray. Amen. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Seated.
Okay, I think it's pretty awesome to have the firemen and officials in the same room together. Everybody likes each other, that's all. You know, at this time, I wouldn't want to, and I'm sure the council will follow up. I want to thank our police officers and our firefighters for what we do every day, the protection of our city and that insurance they have there. You're all very well thought of and appreciated, so thank you for that. With that being said, I think we're the first one we have. Firefighter, new firefighter, Brian Hutchinson, swearing in tonight.
Sorry, Bob and Chris.
Okay, raise your right hand, please. I, Brian Hutchinson, have been appointed to the office of firefighter in the City of Franklin Fire Department. I swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America, the Constitution of the State of Indiana, and the rules and regulations of the Franklin Fire Department. I swear that I will obey all the lawful orders of my superior officers and faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability. Thank you, sir. There's your chance. Let's have for a picture.
Oh, yeah, stay for a picture. Everybody's right. Show that man.
Congratulations.
We have an award for him.
just want to say thank you to Steve on behalf of the Franklin Police Department. Steve and Jessica Brown, Jessica couldn't be here. We really appreciate your hard work. We just had some good conversation with Steve a few days ago. But he's here tonight to receive a life-saving award. It's an award that every police officer does not want to get. That's why we do this job. So on behalf of the individual, I want to say thank you for that. So it says, Chief Cochran on April 10th, 2021, at approximately 10:52 hours, Officer Steve Sowers responded to a report of cardiac arrest at 50 South Water Street. Classic hairstyle. Dispatch advised the massage therapist had collapsed and was not breathing. Officer Stallings advised that he was nearby the location. Within minutes, arrived on the scene. Officer Stallings located the female therapist who was laying on the floor. She was not breathing and he could not find the pulse. Officer Stallings advised dispatch to expedite fire and medical personnel, and he began CPR. Officer Jesse Brown arrived shortly and gave the victim rescue breaths while Stallings continued chest compressions. They completed approximately 6 rounds of CPR before the Franklin Fire Department arrived on the scene and took over life-saving measures. The firefighters advised that the victim had regained the pulse and they prepped her for transport. Garrett was transported by ambulance to St. Francis Hospital on April 11th. Contact was made with a registered nurse at St. Francis Heart Rehabilitation. We had since learned that she was treated in the emergency room and was later admitted to the hospital for recovery. It was in the hospital's opinion that early administration of CPR by Officer Stallings was critical in Garrett's survival. Officer Stallings and Officer Brown responded quickly to the scene and rendered life-saving measures. I am recommending that this incident be reviewed and these officers be considered for life-saving medal. Respectfully, Sergeant Joe Parson and Joe's their supervisor. We all met and obviously very quickly said it. So we thank you, God bless you, and we appreciate it. We have since learned that the victim is going through some rehab right now. Expected to make 100% full recovery with no residual effects. So that's huge. Thank you.
All right. Again, thank you, Steve. We appreciate it.
Good job, Steve.
Okay, is there any other announcements, presentations, public comment? I didn't forget something there, did I, Chief? Or the other chief's not here.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there any other announcements or presentations, public comment?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Mom had a medical procedure, so this has been on my tip. We've both been walking around going, Mom, all day long. Lydia Wells, Franklin Township trustee. I am here just to say thank you to the mayor, the city council for allowing the Franklin PD to hire Karen, the outreach officer. She has been a great resource for the township. There's been many times that I've been able to reach out to her. One time I called her and I forgot it was at 10:15 at night, and she answered, hello, Lydia, so she has been great, and I just want to come and personally thank you guys for allowing that to happen. And Kirby, she's been wonderful. She's got a monthly meeting going on with a lot of different people, and it's been a big help to me and the township. So that's all we needed. And just a reminder that Wednesday here at 7 o'clock is our public hearing for the merger. So we got a lot going on. That's all we had. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. Anyone else? Public comments, presentations, announcements? Hearing none? Rosie?
No, it's my thing.
Okay. Hearing none, we'll go on to consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda. Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, we'll go into old business.
Move to read old business by title only.
Second by Ann McGinnis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. Item number 1 is old business, common council budgetary ordinance number 21-12, an additional appropriation grants, local supplies, $4,044. Please, Chief, for the document.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council. This is the appropriation that we requested in the last meeting. I'm just here for the second time. It's a grant that we were awarded $4,044. Hoping to use that money for narcotics surveillance equipment. Just asking for your approval and take action.
Just to bring it back up, to remind everybody, it's not a matching grant,
No, non-matching grant.
and we can't have action on this one tonight.
Move to approve. Second.
Second by Mr. Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
We'll go on to new business.
Move to read new business by title only.
Second, I'm going to give that to Mrs. McGinnis again. Okay, all those in favor, read by title only.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Item number 1, request to adopt Johnson County multi-hazard mitigation plan in order to be eligible to apply for mitigation money. Stephanie Seasting, Johnson County EMA.
Yes, Stephanie Seasting, Emergency Management Director of Johnson County. I am here to request that the City of Franklin Council adopt our county multi-hazard mitigation plan. Once we get it, it has been approved at FEMA, pending all the adoptions from city and town councils. I have to send those to them, and then they'll fully execute the plan, and then you would be eligible for mitigation.
It's definitely just, again, for the record here. Whenever this plan here, it's a great plan. The city also has some input. We have people that works with
Yes.
input on it.
Yes, every city and town had to have a representative, at least one planning meeting. We hosted 3, we had a public meeting. But just as long as they attended one meeting, then when you adopted the plan, then you're eligible for mitigation money. And we have to do this every 5 years.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, I placed in front of, when I saw that Stephanie was on the agenda this weekend, it occurred to me, we have some new council members
Yes.
that weren't here the last time we adopted this. So I placed on the front of everybody's chair just a summary of the 127 pages.
Yeah, it's a long document.
We did review it, and I did review it, and as Stephanie has indicated, we were represented at the time. Dan Rathke was the chief, Kirby had a couple of representatives on it. We also had the city engineer, so we had input, and I think there's a list, perhaps in the summary that I gave you.
Yes, because we took all their input of the hazards of your city and put those in there so they would be covered.
And so if anything, God forbid, should happen, then we're already, because we're signatory to this, then we're eligible for the money that's operating through our office tremendously. We've adopted it every year,
Yes.
it's up for renewal.
It started, we had to do it after the 2008 flood. We had 3 months to get a plan together. So it was quick,
Yeah.
but we did it. So
I do have all 126 pages, if anyone wants to sit and read it. I do keep it, and I have read it all, but I thought it would be helpful for you to have something in your files to show that's what that is in the event. You're welcome. So we need to adopt it, and the resolution is ready for your action tonight.
Motion for the resolutions.
Second.
Second by Mr. Austin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stephanie. And I just want to tell the council, also, we have a group of people that city, what the city's in charge of certain things during rain events. And since I've been the mayor, we've had a couple, and one of them was on a weekend, and we called, we were supposed to get like 5 or 6 inches of rain. Remember that one, Brett? They were calling through a pretty good resource to pay them. We were going to get this rain event, and we didn't get that. We did call everybody in, and we was prepared. And in that plan, if you ever look it out, I mean, they have, when I say they, our people have this down to a science. They know when so much water gets here, this road over here is going to start flooding. So they're already ahead of blocking these roads on that emergency part. Being ahead of seeing what's happening. It's pretty amazing the group of people we have that works on that emergency situation.
Yes, anytime that the county has something, I can call the mayor, and he's real good about sending it out if we need it.
Yeah, so we're all, this is a good thing for all of us. So
Yes.
appreciate what you said.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We didn't pass that, did we?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I should have said that before we voted.
Stephanie, will I just email you a copy of it then
Yes,
tomorrow?
that's all I need.
Stephanie, how many more interviews are you going to sign off? Greenwood?
You're my second one.
Okay,
I have 7 more.
okay.
I have one tomorrow night, I have 2 next week, and then I have one the first 3 weeks in May. So hopefully by the end of May, I'll have it sent in to you because I can just email it to them, because that's what they're waiting on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steph. Okay, next item, common council resolution number 21-17, a resolution granting tax abatement for innovative 3D community development specialist.
Good evening. I have before you tonight, a resolution for a request for a 5-year tax abatement for Innovative 3D. You will recall this is the company that Chris Beck started back in 2017 and done a phenomenal job over on Industrial Parkway. Chris was intending to be here tonight, but something's come up. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it, but he did give a presentation to the Economic Development Commission last Tuesday. Mr. Taylor was there and heard this. As I said, he is buying new equipment. This is going into a lot of very technical space industry types of work and different things like that. This is for $1,600,000 or $60,000 worth of personal equipment. He will be adding 1 new job. His average pay is $27 an hour, so he is well above our average wages for the community. He will have a total of 5 new employees there. He has also agreed to the 5% economic development fee. And the economic revitalization area designation has already been made for this property. It was made back in 2017 when Mr. Beck started his company, so we do not need to do that. So therefore, you only have the 1 resolution before you. It is only required for 1 meeting, so we can take action on this tonight. So I guess, Mr. Taylor, do you have any
Yeah,
more?
Chris was at the meeting and he did go through a lot of things that they're doing there, 3D. As we talked there, it's amazing. You drive out there and you would have no idea what they're really doing there. With the fence components and all the things, we're building lots of prototypes and getting them to the stage where they can now, with these machines, be able to build them and mass produce them as well. So they're doing a lot of one-off things right now, but it's pretty amazing what some of the things that they're turning out over there. You would never, when you drive by, you would never know.
Sean, actually, I think last year before, we went over there and saw the facility. It wasn't amazing, incredible.
He's invited us back actually, so I'm going to try to set up something for the Economic Development Commission members, and then I want to make sure that all the council members know that date as well, to come back over. He's planning on doing some more continuation and expansions of what he's working on up there.
Neat place.
Tina, what is the period of years?
It's a 5-year standard abatement.
Okay, thank you.
It has a 5% economic development fee.
Personal property.
Personal property only, yes.
Right.
I don't have anything to say, just want to do back to Sean.
Yeah. I would definitely agree. Sorry. Motion to approve Common Council Resolution 21-17.
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Rod Pearson, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, hearing none, thank you, David.
Yeah.
Okay, item number 3, Common Council Ordinance number 21-05, annexation to be known as 8 Oakley Farms annexation. This is introduction only from Senior Planner Joanna Meyer.
Good evening. Oakley Farms LLC has requested an annexation of 88.4 acres located at the northeast and southeast of the intersection of State Road 44 and County Road 600 East. They went before Planning Commission at their March 16th meeting, and the Planning Commission has forwarded no recommendation to City Council. Included in this packet is also a draft of the resolution that coincides with the fiscal plan and a copy of the fiscal plan. And this is set for public hearing on May 3rd.
Okay, so it is just introduction, but if anyone has any questions for Joanna, please feel free.
Is this Oakley, is this 44?
44 and 600 east. There's acreage on the southeast corner of that intersection, and if that 600 ran north, it would be the northeast.
I'm just gonna ask the question, and forgive me because I should know this, but I don't. At one time, you know, Franklin has adopted on the west side of I-65, they have a gateway structure in place, in which there's pretty much a lot of parameters established as far as how things are built and so forth. Is there anything similar to that on the east side of 65?
The gateway overlay generally has not applied to the industrial properties on the east side.
Do communities do that though? I mean, is that something that they have an opportunity to do?
Some of them do. Our gateway overlay standards are really geared towards commercial and retail and residential. They're not geared towards industrial size buildings or properties.
I'm already getting calls about all this, so I've got to try to, in my mind, kind of go through all the layers of various things. I could come into your office and ask you. And I'm not really trying to put anybody on the spot. I'm just wondering right now. And when it deals with industrial properties, are there such things as, I'm forgetting the word, barrier, I don't call them barriers, what do you call them?
Buffer yards? Setbacks?
No, Chris, Christmas do, what's the term when you have the trees and the stuff?
The buffer
The
yard.
buffer zone, yeah, buffer zone is established,
Yes, buffer yard requirements are established in our zoning ordinance, and it's based off of what the existing zoning is adjacent to the property. So there's 3 different types. There's type 1, type 2, type 3. As you proceed up those grades, the buffer yards get wider, and those are imposed on properties where the abutting zoning districts would be less compatible. So you have industrial adjacent to residential, it would have, a higher class of type buffer. Uses that are compatible, then there are no buffers between them. And there's a sheet in our zoning ordinance that shows all the different zoning districts and what type of buffers they have, and I can make sure I bring that at the next meeting.
I know that we've been property acquired out east. Has the Tressler farm that's been changed over to light industrial as well? There wasn't a lot of pushback on that side of the street, on the road, but I'm sensing that we're getting it on the other side based on the fact that there's no vote at the planning level.
It was a no recommendation.
No recommendation. They voted unanimously not to forward it with any recommendation.
Why is that?
Well, the planning commission sends it to you. They have 3 options. They can vote to either send it to you with a favorable recommendation that it be adopted. Remember, it's an annexation and a rezoning. So when you bring something in, you've got to zone it. They can either send it to you with a favorable recommendation, they can send it to you with an unfavorable recommendation, or they can send it to you with no recommendation, meaning they didn't make a recommendation one way or the other.
Was there a vote?
And yet there were votes, and neither one of them passed. No recommendation again or recommendation. I don't even know if we got to, there was a recommendation.
There was an unfavorable recommendation that failed due to lack of majority. There was a favorable recommendation that also failed due to lack of majority.
And so,
If they did not make a third motion or a motion that carried a majority, it would have been automatically continued to the very next commission meeting. And planning commission is advisory to city council. So they made a motion of no recommendation, and we're here this evening.
Was that a contentious meeting?
I wouldn't
It's
say
contentious.
contentious, of course, Joanne and I are used to. There was a difference, and Chris Reinerson is your representative on the planning commission, so he can certainly speak. But having said here, it was clear that there was not going to be a majority one way or the other, and rather than delay the process, they decided to bring it here. It was, you have to have a majority of the entire board vote one way or the other.
And I can include a copy of the minutes
Sure.
with the next submittal.
That'd be
Then
great.
we have the public hearing.
Chris, can you give us a highlight of some of the viewpoints?
Yeah, I mean, some of the viewpoints, there were a couple landowners around the property that were scared for more semi-truck traffic and noise, lighting, things like that. So that was probably one of the biggest viewpoints that we had.
And one of the points that was made in discussions with staff was that it was basically, in some of their viewpoints, 600 was the line in the sand. And we went, and we're on the east side of 600.
Joanna, we approve our minutes tomorrow night at the planning commission meeting. We can certainly include that in the packet.
I'll go back to the question again, and you answered it, but I'm going to ask it differently. Does a community have the ability to, I think everybody does, but I keep coming back to the term gateway, even though we typically don't when it comes to light industrial properties. Does a community have the ability to kind of map out exactly what they're looking for? Kind of like we did on the east side when it came to the retail side.
Well, they do.
Yeah, ours we would have to revise our gateway overlay. We would have to revise ours because if we made this property subject to those, it wouldn't be applicable. Because
Well, I mean, it's,
Yeah, we have to
I'm not
revise
talking,
the
well, I'm not talking that necessarily retail. But what I'm thinking is, do we have any ability to determine kind of what we're looking for out there as opposed to allowing the development process
Well,
to dictate that for us?
the answer is yes, but it's not something easy. We would have to go back, number one, you can do it through zoning, and you can do it through your gateway overlay zone. But in order for us to do that, we would have to revise our gateway overlay zone and our zoning ordinances completely, because when it was adopted, it was adopted with the view towards the commercial development and not industrial. So if you approved it subject to application of the gateway overlay zone, you would not be approving anything, because there's nothing that's applicable to that.
So we could, in an extreme, I don't know if this is extreme or not, say time out, we are.
Well, we would probably delay the process by at least 6 months to 9 months.
And we are bound by Indiana code
Correct.
to make official action on an annexation and a rezoning within a certain time.
Say,
Correct.
yea or nay.
Yes, correct.
But even if we say, no, that doesn't necessarily put an end to it, it would come back. But if a community chose to, what I'm hearing is a lot of the landowners, when we did the overlay on the east side 15 years ago, 20 years ago, the encroachment on their properties wasn't as prevalent as it is now. And I'm not even sure if they were even had that opportunity to weigh in on what type of development we have. You kind of see where I'm going with
Well,
So
when we do our overlay zones and when we do our zoning ordinances, we incorporate our citizens. There are some people that are not out that aren't
Right.
citizens of Franklin that come in, and they certainly have that right, it's an open meeting. So whether or not they were involved at that point really is, who knows, because they probably weren't, they're not part of the Franklin topic. But I would say that as it relates to this, obviously the public meeting is next week, so we're not having a hearing, you're not making any decision one way or the other. But what frequently happens with those issues is when somebody comes in with annexation in for rezoning, they sometimes will make commitments. Their commitments on that particular project rather than modifying our complete ordinance, because as Joanne said, we are under a time frame, we have to make a decision. Yes, sir.
But even if it's approved, then obviously it moves ahead. If it's denied, that doesn't mean it's denied in perpetuity.
Actually, it is for a while. They can't come back for a while.
1 year?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing in regard to the gateway overlay, some of the properties that are currently out there on both the north and the south side of 44 at 65 previously were zoned with the gateway overlay on portions of the property. That was actually something that was rezoned when those properties came through, and council actually moved the gateway overlay from the industrial properties, which goes to show how it did not fit with the industrial, because it talks about entry features and architectural details and sconces and, things that just don't apply, like clock towers.
Yeah, awnings and,
Awnings.
things you just don't have in industrial.
Joanna, would it be proper to assume that because it is, it's not going in towards town, obviously it's going opposite direction, right? Right, this particular parcel?
It would be the first property that we left in Franklin.
Okay. So I guess what I was trying to say is a lot of times we've asked these developers to increase the amount of trees, bushes, nice amenities, to kind of spruce it up a little bit, to make it look a little bit nicer. I know that we've asked these developers before to do that, and they comply.
That
They agree.
typically is not at the annexation or
Okay.
rezoning, it's
Okay.
typically at the primary plat stage
Okay.
of when you know what they're coming forward
I
and
see.
how they're wanting to divide the property, because then you're making those decisions based off of an actual
course. Yeah,
project
okay.
versus a projection.
But you can make some zoning.
You can.
You can. For instance, that is the reason, quite frankly, I'm going back to 25 years ago. Sitting on the planning commission, we made a zoning commitment that the property where our two hotels are could not be used for truck stops. And that was a zoning commitment, and that's the reason there's not a truck stop there. So there is some precedent for us when we take things into annexations and zonings to put restrictions on uses, if you will. So it can be done in the zoning code. Annexation, and that's the next item on your agenda for introduction only, is subject to, usually to the rezoning of some type being in
Joanna, that's in our master plan, is
Well,
that correct?
that's what I was just gonna say. The other thing to note is that our extraterritorial jurisdiction, actually goes to the eastern boundary of these properties. So our zoning map, has a zoning designation to that point. Our comprehensive plan is then to that point. So we're not, with this annexation before you, are not going outside of jurisdiction that we already have zoning and have been planned for
in our comp plan.
in our comp plan.
I want to add one more thing to this. About a year ago, Joanna and I was approached by the county to put a undesirable big crane service outside, right there, close to 600. And we didn't want that. I mean, it's big, ugly cranes, trucks, and didn't want to annex. And so that's what could happen if like the county, like the TIF thing we're seeing with the county who's proposed they're going to TIF. They're saying, okay, we want to TIF that, and then they'll start bringing stuff that's a little bit less favorable and have that fight with whoever they want to have that fight with. But that's what we're up against now. So you might be surprised what could happen there if the county takes over and their standards are like pole barns and that sort of stuff. So I think we got a pretty high standard in our industrial area.
And it currently is in the county, sorry.
It currently is in the county, and they did,
It's
It's
in
in
our
our
zone,
zone.
it's in our zoning jurisdiction, but in their subdivision,
Correct.
jurisdiction.
and they tried to get us to relinquish that zoning so they could put this company there that wasn't going to fit into what we thought should be here.
So are you saying, Mayor, we denied the request for this time, at this time, because county, I mean,
If they tip it?
no, I'm just saying, can they come in
They
zone
could,
themselves?
they could, that doesn't mean they would.
If they go through the process of removing Franklin's buffer zone and take zoning jurisdiction,
Correct.
they could do that.
They can do that regardless of how we vote on this.
If it's annexed,
They
they
lose
could not.
jurisdiction. That's correct.
But that's the other thing, there's two different petitions here. We're talking about the annexation right now. And then the next request is the rezoning. They both don't have to be approved, they also both don't have to be denied because they're separate. We already have zoning jurisdiction, so we could rezone it without annexing it, or we could annex it without rezoning it.
Correct. And you guys don't deal with planning and zoning all the time, like Joanne and I do, so I think this is just time, again, we're not having a hearing, we're not making any decisions, this is just introduction. But essentially what happens is, obviously, right now, we have the city limits, and then there's the buffer zone that goes around it, and our comp plan anticipates all of the zoning within anything that we have jurisdiction over, including the big buffer zone. If we annex it, it is now becomes part of the city. We control it. If we don't annex it, we have buffer zone, zoning jurisdiction. And that's what Joanna and I were, the county can, if they utilize the right process, get rid of our buffer zone in that area. And then it's entirely within the jurisdiction.
And that's what we thought they were going to do, and until last minute, they decided not to.
Correct. But once it's annexed, then it becomes part of the city. If it is annexed.
So this is how we think the water doesn't leak.
Correct.
My question will pretty much go over as far as the annexation is going, and I appreciate that clarification on the table. So, I don't know, I think that the zoning issue, that's the right one to take right now, from what I understand. That's what the planning commission took it over.
No, they forwarded no recognition
No recognition.
on
I'll go.
their news.
All right.
Would you ask, I'll just say it, I've talked to three of them, you asked me why. Is there any contention there? There's 10 or so residents, my understanding, that was there for rebuttal. And the planning commission people that I talked to didn't have just wanted to stay neutral. That's, and the people that was there, the folks that I really appreciate everyone that come, were not frankly, they live in the address, but not as in the Franklin settlements.
But they were all advised of our public hearing next meeting right here. And so I anticipate they will be here so that they can share their concerns with you. But
That will be the introductory.
No, that'll be a public hearing.
Today,
I mean, we're not voting on it, we're deferring on the next meeting.
well,
You would vote on the resolution for the fiscal plan, and you could vote on the rezoning. Typically, we table the rezoning to coincide with the annexation, but you don't have to do that.
but the public hearing will be next week. And people have been so advised.
So they'll
There's
be here
also some
next week.
coordination with the county, because it's also in the Needham Fire Protection District, and it is going through the process of, it went through the Fire Protection District Board, and they forwarded a resolution to have it removed from Fire Protection District. Currently, it is pending review of county commissioners. So depending on where the temperature is on the annexation, they're
own street. Correct?
Yes, but they're not annexed, they're not paying city taxes.
I understand that, I'm just saying.
And they're also not in an agreement like we are with Franklin Township.
Okay. Interesting.
But with that being said, if there's a fire, our fire department is
Of
not the
course.
first ones there.
Of course.
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah, what's wrong?
Okay, is there any other questions for Joanna on this one? If not, let's go on to the other one, that's introduction that ties into this. If you don't mind. Any other on this one? Okay, here none, I'll go on to Common Council Ordinance number 21-06, rezoning to be known as Oak Leaf Farms rezoning. Introduction, Senior Planner Joanna Myers.
Location is the same as the previous annexation. Was heard by the Franklin Tech Commission March 16th. They forwarded a no recommendation to rezone the property from agricultural to industrial light. It's set for introduction this evening and public hearing on May 3rd. And the public notice has been provided for those annexation and the rezoning was made in the Daily Journal.
Any questions on this one?
Joanne, if you could have maps, please, at the next meeting.
Sure.
Thank you.
So maps, lumber yards, minutes,
And complicated.
content.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Okay, we'll go on to the next item, Common Council Ordinance number 21-07, an ordinance vacating right-of-way within the city of Franklin, Indiana, between lots 73, 74, 75, and 76, the original plat of Franklin to be known as OP Franklin Lot 73, 76, Alley Vacation. Senior Planner Joanna Myers. And this one is also introduction only.
So there's an alley that runs north and south from Wayne Street to the east-west alley that runs between Main Street and Water Street. This is for the new Kirk Square project. We have contacted all the utility companies and have received verification from them that they have no opposition of the alley being vacated as they do not have utilities in those locations. This was heard by Board of Works at the April 5th meeting, and they did forward a favorable recommendation to vacate this, and it is set for public hearing and final action on May 3rd.
What happens generally when we vacate an alley, this is obviously not a used alley, but what typically happens when we vacate an alley, one half of the alley goes to the property owner on one side adjoining it, and the other half goes on the other side adjoining it. In this particular case, it's the same owner. They've created an entity, so essentially what we do is if the alley will be on, just all be part of that parcel.
This has to be for Big Curtis there, just in case you didn't catch it.
And if you're interested in seeing their plans, you can go to the technical review committee agenda for April 22nd and pull up a copy of their construction plans.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Joanna? Hearing none, we'll go on to Common Council Ordinance number 2108, right-of-way permit and restoration requirements, city engineer Mark Richards.
Good evening. Call back, Mayor Barnett asked that I take a look at the right-of-way ordinance, because we were having some issues with restoration and some other problems. So what I've developed in conjunction with the mayor, with the street department, and with my staff are the following 5 changes that first of all, the ordinance will add clarifying language for restoration requirements. Secondly, it describes contact required in an effort to improve communication between the utility companies and the city. We tend to have a lot of utility companies and their contractors that go out and start doing work without ever getting a permit. So we're trying to improve that and have a little bit bigger handle as far as penalties. Third, it expands requirement to use flowable fill for excavation backfill material throughout the entire right-of-way.
Currently, the flow and fill is only required underneath the street pavement. We also have sidewalks, trails, and basically vegetated areas that are subject to subsidence if a good fill material is not used for backfill. So we've expanded this to encompass the entire right-of-way. We clarify the inspection requirements, the advanced notification, and what items have to be inspected. And then finally, I've added exhibits that provide examples of how restoration is supposed to be done. Basically, plan view and cross-sectional views showing what materials are to be used and where they're to be used. One change that Mr. Gray brought up, this was presented at the Board of Public Works and Safety this evening to ask for a favorable recommendation to the council. It falls on the Board of Works to manage public rights of way, so we felt that we needed the board's buy-in for this. But one section that Ms. Gray brought up is a section that talks about irrigation systems in the right of way. Says we don't issue permits for those, but it doesn't explicitly say that we prohibit them. So I'm going to take care of modifying that language. I'll rely on you to tell me how we need to do that, since this is introduction, and I assume that there has to be a provision or something.
Yeah, just add another sentence right there. Mark was kind enough to send me ahead of time, and basically, this is just copied from our old ordinance, and so we thought, well, we're doing it, we have something that seems to occur, and so we'll just. It's their location.
The current ordinance is 1502. That will be repealed upon passage of this, and this will take effect 30 days following ratification of the ordinance. Be happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
If you could think of any questions, Mark's going to not be here with next week.
Correct.
So if you have any questions, I guess it's okay, they can email me. Sure.
Yeah, please email me, and I'll have access to email. I can take care of any questions or any changes that need to be made to the document.
So if you really want to test me, you can ask me when he's not here. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, yearly tax abatement compliance report for approval, community development specialist Amy Monson, and this one is retroactive.
Correct. So these are the next round of the CF1 reports. These are the reports at any company that has an active tax abatement with the city is required to file with us every year. These reports go to the Economic Development Commission, who reviews them, and these have all been reviewed last week. Mr. Taylor again was there with those. All of these have been recommended for your approval this evening. There was nothing, and Mr. Taylor, you can correct me, I don't think there was anything that anybody saw that were of concern or.
There's nothing glaring on the new ones. There were 3 that we brought back in at that time. Just to kind of give the story, where they're doing, where they're going, how they kind of plan to, meet after all the COVID stuff and things that they've got to do. And so we did approve 3 weeks. We did not do 1 because they weren't having meetings, so we've got to go back to them.
Sean, of those 3,
Yes.
can you tell us which ones they were?
Caterpillar, Overton,
And TCT&A.
yeah.
Well, the very first one is CET CAD, and, down $1.7 million is significant. I can understand during COVID, even the employees, they're almost 100 now. But again, I can see that you would find them substantial clients.
They
salaries.
Yeah, they said that they are changing how they're doing. They brought in some new buyers for their thing. They are cat, but a lot of their engines aren't yellow cats. But now the Caterpillar is doing some refurb stuff with the engines, and that is a new line of business for them that They're hoping to take off there through that plan.
As a procedural matter, Council President, you asked me last time if we need to do a specific motion as to all of them. And I review the law, okay, everybody here review the law. There is no requirement, but you are correct in the past, but just, they have read which ones you're considering, just having a global motion to approve, if that's what you're inclined to do. If you're inclined not to approve one, then you should say take it out.
Well,
It's probably a good idea, perhaps if you just run down the numbers of them.
So we are considering C 2021-05, which is Caterpillar Remanufacturing, C 2021-11, Brookside Chart Light, which is the former Hatsco building, C 2021-18, which is Overton Industries, C 2021-20, which is Premium Composite Technology North America, C 2021-07, which is Energizer Holdings, C 2021-14, NSK Corp., C 2021-15, NSK Corp., C 2021-16, NSK Corp., C 2021-17, which is NSK Precision, and C 2021-30, which is Titman. Thank you.
I move to approve the tax abatements written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Mr. Houston. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Sean. Thanks, Dana.
Okay, so that gets us, there isn't any other business. So it gets us to council comments, and I'm going to start backwards this time. Mr. Taylor, any comments?
Nothing tonight, sir, but I did want to wish you a belated happy birthday. Didn't see you yesterday, but happy birthday.
Thank you. Just had to bring it up again.
I did, just want to make sure.
No, I had a good birthday. No cake tonight? No cake. So, thank you. Mr. Ron Harrison?
I think I saw on Facebook where Deputy Chief Scott Summers celebrating 20 years of service.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So I just wanted to say congratulations.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's been my honor.
Anything else?
That's it.
Ms. Davis?
I don't have anything tonight, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Buchanan?
I see where there's a property being torn down on East Jefferson Street. Is that something we can disclose, what's going on there?
Yeah, I think if I'm hearing this right, it's the one Jim Edwards bought the place,
Okay.
and he's tearing it down, he's gonna build a new house. Do I know what that house is? I mean, that's what I think he's gonna do.
Okay, so it's privately held, it's
Yeah,
not
it's
something we
private.
took back, okay.
Yeah, that was-
It's probably one that needs to go.
Yeah, it was in pretty bad shape. I know that Krista and I know Ronnie Oliver, when she was here, that's been a long time coming on that one. And, you know, the city mowing it and take care of it, and the roof leaking and water all running inside. I mean, it's pretty much shot. But I would have thought the one on West Jefferson, where now they're starting working that front porch, I would have thought they'd tore that one down. They're gonna save that one, so. Anyway, it's all good. You can't save them all, I don't guess.
I'm sure, Krista, you tried to save it, didn't you?
She did.
All right.
Okay, anything else, Bob?
No, that's all, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Blankenship?
No comment.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Austin?
Big thank you to the city of Franklin for flowers and recognition of the passing of my mother. It was very kind for your staff and employees to reach out to me and our family, and we really appreciate it. Kind words and prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. Mrs. Rose? Ms. Rose? Okay. Ms. Gregg?
I just wanted to let you know, I have not forgotten about the issue with regard to protection, sewer protection lines, but knowing what your agenda is this month and as well as what's going to be next month, I'll bring it back to you when we have a little time to discuss it and keep it here hours to come. So I didn't forget.
And then I just have one thing to remind everybody, next Monday in this room, April 26th, the joint school board city council meeting. If you can make it, please be here. I think we do have one thing on the agenda that we're going to ask to vote on for the school.
Correct, it's the school resource officer agreement we have with the school corporation, and it's been circulated between myself, the chief, as well as the school attorney, so it's ready for action.
Mayor, at 6 p.m.
Yes. I know in the past, most of the time, we've had good attendance. I think there was one time it was close to not having a quorum, so this will make the red quorum, so we can act on the item. That's all I have. Is there anything else from anybody?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn, all in favor?
All right.
Opposed?